Keith Krach is simply larger than life. It didn't surprise me at all that he was named the Transformational Leader of the Year. You spend 5 minutes with Keith and you just think you can do anything.
Hello, I'm Viva Bianca, and today I have the honor of speaking with entrepreneur, philanthropist, business leader, and former chairman and CEO of Ariba and DocuSign, Keith Krach. A trailblazer in transformational leadership and today's recipient of the life&news Transformational Leadership Award, Keith transformed factory automation as a pioneer in robotics, transformed engineering automation by creating a new category of mechanical design software, created B2B e-commerce industry when founding Ariba, transformed higher education when helping Purdue University reduce student debt, transformed digital transactions with DocuSign, and is currently transforming mentorship with the Virtual Mentor Network. Please welcome Keith Krach.
Viva, thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you.
Well, it's an honor to be with you and in your beautiful home. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it.
Keith, I've just listed off a mouthful of transformational accomplishments, and I'm certain I'm just scratching the surface. So as someone who's arguably an authority on the subject, what does it mean to be a transformational leader?
Well, Viva, I think three things. The first is it's about change, and I believe change is the most powerful word in any language because, as you know, without change we don't develop, prosper, or grow. And it's about challenge. You know, transformational leaders will challenge that status quo. The other thing, it's about people. At the end of the day, no matter what kind of business you're in or what kind of cause you're supporting, you're in the people business, and that's the multiplier for everything. So the ability to inspire and mobilize and unify is absolutely key. But it all starts with the noble cause, whatever that noble cause may be. And if you're successful, it's about that impact or making a difference, whether it's a big difference, a little difference, but most of all, a meaningful difference to that noble cause.
How would you describe the difference between a transformational leader and a traditional leader?
Well, if you look at the traditional leader, it would be focused on what I would call production or the bottom line, profits, quarterly earnings. Where if you look at a transformational leader, it's more focused on impact and more long-term thinking as opposed to short-term thinking, the traditional way. And I think a transformational leader, thinks in strategic terms as opposed to tactical terms. And the other thing about a classic traditional leader is they usually kind of follow the status quo. I mean, think about, let's open the policy manual and see what are the instructions there, where I think a transformational leader will challenge that status quo and will inspire and will unify people along those regards.
You've talked before about defying convention and challenging the status quo, and you've just mentioned it again, and that's a key characteristic of transformational leadership. And yet it occurs to me that many of us aren't raised to think in that way, that following convention is often encouraged. Right. So how can you explain this concept, and can you provide some examples of how it's worked for you in your career?
Yeah, I think I had great examples growing up. My mother was definitely in and out of the box thinker, and I think a big characteristic goes along with that as well is curiosity, and I think that's a key. Is you always want to learn more about people, student of human nature, how things work, and think about different ways to solve and envision problems, and. My father used to describe my mom as that your mom only has one rule: there are no rules. And then he would say, now there's three, Keith. The first one is don't hurt anybody physically. The second is don't do anything illegal. And the third thing is don't hurt anybody's feelings. Other than that, you can do anything you want. So I think, growing up with that model in terms of change, when you're growing up, there's a lot of self-doubt. Well, there always is some self-doubt, some insecurities. And I guess if anything I've learned, just jump in that water over your head, because you're gonna learn to swim. And that really truly is when you learn the most. And I just seem to be doing it one after another, and it's scary, but after a while it becomes addicting. I call it scary fun. And it reminds me when my two sons were young, and the oldest guy was 7 years old. And he goes, "Come on, Carter," who's 5 years old. He goes, "Let's go on the roller coaster. Let's go on the roller coaster with Dad." And the 5-year-old Carter, he's going like, "Oh, I don't know." Finally convinced, we're in line. And, his brother's going, "You're going to love it. You're going to go love it." And we're going up like that first big hill, and he clicks in. And I'm sitting next to Carter, and Steve's in the car front. And all of a sudden he looks back and he just goes, "Carter, we're going to die. We're going to die." And I'm like going, "Oh, man." And then you go down the hill and you're whipping around. He's screaming his head off. I'm thinking I'm the worst father that ever came to existence. And then it comes to a screeching halt. And I look over at Carter, and he just goes, "Dad, that was scary fun. Let's do it again." And I think that's a great metaphor for life, because after a while, it does. I mean, it becomes addicting. It's fun. You want to do it over and over again.
You've explained that empowering and mobilizing others is also a key characteristic of transformational leadership. And I also understand this is one of your greatest gifts. What's your secret? How do you inspire and mobilize other people in your life?
Well, I think it starts with that noble cause, and inspiring a shared vision, because people support what they help create. I think that is key. And I also think it is about, in addition to challenging that status quo, it is about empowering others. And it's more than just delegating authority that goes with responsibility. It's about creating a safe environment. And, in the companies I've had the good fortune of building, we always have a playbook, and that's the vision, the mission, the values, the team rules, the long-term goals, strategy, all boiled down to execution. And the team rules have always been the same. And team rule number 2 is no idea is a bad idea. So, say anything you want. The crazier, the better. And it may be super crazy, but it might spark another idea. And then what we did is we modify it, and we put in parentheses, unless it's the CEO's. Because it's fun to mock out the CEO. Right. And actually that creates a safe environment. So I think that is, I think that's key. The other thing is encourage the heart, because people can deny your logic, but they cannot deny your enthusiasm. And then I think maybe the last one is modeling the way, because the most powerful form of leadership is leadership by example, because everybody's looking at you. So I think in terms of unifying and mobilizing, those are some of the keys. The other great thing is to have a competitor. You have the noble mission. You have you have a common enemy. And by the way, in many of the companies I built, it's paper, right? Right. So people are focused externally instead of focusing at the water cooler.